It's Dr. Kevin Most, Senior Vice President of Medical Affairs, Chief Medical Officer at Northwestern Medicine Central DuPage Hospital, who each week tries to save us from ourselves as we welcome him to the program. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. It was nice. I was down in North Carolina, so I got a little bit better weather, but it's kind of hard to get on that plane when it's, 56 degrees, knowing that when you're landing, it's going to be 15 degrees. So, Yeah.
And you know what else on Thanksgiving, Dr. Most? I looked at my plate and I started counting the calories and I thought Dr. Most would be very upset. So I took little bits of everything.
Right.
It lingered in my brain.
Yeah, I took more just to make up for what you weren't taking.
Thanks.
Well, good for you guys, both of you. That doesn't surprise me on Steve's part. And Jane, that's really good.
But I did run 5 miles, so I was kind of counterbalancing the eating.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, did you do a turkey trot before?
I did, yeah. It's 7 in the morning.
You?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I ran 5 miles, but I was chasing a turkey. I want to make sure we had enough food.
Right.
You mentioned the cold. Why don't we start right there? Let's jump in. I can't help but notice that I've gotten older. As I've gotten older, my extremities are colder. So what's the deal? When we get older, why are we colder?
Yeah, people say that it's like, gosh, why is that guy wearing a sweater, or why is that lady wearing a sweater? It's, X degrees out, and I'm here in a T-shirt. But we just have to understand why, as we age, we do get colder, and just understand it. And there are some things that we can do to prevent it, believe it or not. But really, one of the biggest things is our skin starts to thin, so we lose some of our fat, our skin thins. And you got to remember that our skin and our fat are kind of the insulation that keeps us heat, keeps us warm. So that's one of the big things. And then we lose muscle mass, and that's probably the biggest thing that we can say to seniors is try to maintain your muscle mass as much as you can, whether that's doing some light weightlifting, whether that's doing some exercising, walking, trying to keep that muscle mass because that is going to keep you warm.
So you talk about muscle mass. I'm talking about running. We're talking about being cold, and we want to stay healthy. Is the miracle medicine, the fountain of youth, is it all just exercise?
It really does. It comes down to exercise and diet, to be honest with you. Eating properly and making sure that you're not eating, like we've talked in the past, the ultra-processed foods. But really does come down to activity, and especially for seniors. When we look at osteoporosis in seniors who fall have a high chance of having a hip fracture or a broken bone, and that's because our bones become osteoporotic. Well, one of the reasons, you could say, I'm taking as much vitamin D as I can, but one of the other reasons is we have to use those bones so that they stay strong. So the body is smart enough to say, oh, you're not using this bone, I don't need to keep it strong anymore, and therefore it becomes osteoporotic. So we really say, hey, whatever you can do to keep your bones strong. And then weightlifting and keeping your muscles up, absolutely. And then probably one of the biggest things also is flexibility. So whether you're stretching, doing yoga, doing Pilates, something that's going to work on your mobility, because 2 things happen there. 1, you keep your balance, which decreases your chance of falling, and 2, it increases your muscle mass, which again is exactly what we want to do in seniors.
So a couple questions. One is there's this guy I know who's had a hereditary blood clotting condition that was only discovered in his 40s, and he takes a blood thinner each day, and he feels like he's been colder since he's been on the blood thinner. Myth or fact?
Myth. Certainly,
that guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's me.
I remember that day when you're 40s when that all happened.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
I could tell you exactly where I was. But it is interesting, when we look at blood, we say, oh, my blood is thinner because I'm taking aspirin or a blood thinner. We have to remember that really all that's doing is actually making sure that you don't form a clot so that the blood continues to circulate. So you would think almost the opposite, right? Sluggish blood is not going to get somewhere faster, and it's going to slow down, and it's going to make us colder. Thinner blood is going to circulate and is going to increase. But it really is just a kind of a mindset, because any blood clot obviously would be harmful wherever it is in the body, but certainly the blood thinner will not make you feel colder.
Wow. Okay, I want to move on to the common cold. Listen, people have colds. They come to work, and I'm like, if you are sick, I don't want to be around you because I'm going to get it.
You're a bit of a freak. You're a bit of a freak about colds. I came in with sniffles a couple weeks ago.
I stayed away from
and
you.
And you went on like it was like a 5-alarm fire. You ran in the other direction screaming.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You
because
insisted I'd be taken into custody immediately.
Yes, this is true. I've always been this way. Pre-pandemic, any pandemic, I don't want to be around somebody that has a cold. They go, no, it's allergies. But don't bring it to work because I'm going to get the cold. Because
it was just leprosy.
The cold's in the air, and we're going to get sick. Thank you.
How many colds a year, Doc?
But Jane, you make a very, very good point that we wish we could get across to more people, and that is when you're sick, stay home.
Thank you.
Doc, I'm too vital. I can't work from home.
You can work from home.
I'm a vital individual. I can't. Yeah, people have said, Steve, are you vital? And I said, yes, I believe I am. And then they laugh and they walk in the other direction.
And you can work from home because now we're getting into the cold season. Although there's been summer colds, we see more colds happening now. People are showing up. They're touching everything. They're touching their noses, blowing their face, and then they shake your hand.
Right.
Touch the elevator buttons.
Absolutely. And look what's going on right now. People have to understand, we're talking about, okay, is there a bump up in COVID? Absolutely, there is a bump up in COVID, especially in the last couple of weeks. But look what's happening with flu. Last week, I think it was 7 states were high activity, 7 were moderate. I looked this morning, we're at 11 states are at high and 11 states are at moderate. And that's expected to change just because of the Thanksgiving holiday. And influenza is a classic. People say, why do we only get influenza in the winter? And in fact, we get influenza all year, but it works well in the winter just because we're all close, we're all together, and it's actually a virus that does very well in the cold. So it's kind of the perfect storm.
When we come back, more on the common cold.
Yes.
Jane is moving away from me, and I haven't been sick in weeks. And if you want to increase your cognition, maybe you ought to get yourself some golf clubs.
You've got a few to spare.
I do. I make people more cognitive. And it's...
I want to talk to your
I make people
hippocampus
more
about that.
cognity. Dr. Kevin Mills, Senior Vice President, Medical Affairs, Chief Medical Officer, Northwestern Medicine, Central DuPage Hospital. We're talking about head colds before we hit the break. It's easier than ever not to work because nobody goes to work anymore. So maybe we could stop the spread of head colds through working from home.
Yeah, if you think about it, Steve, think about what happened during the pandemic. We normally have a flu season that's pretty predictable. Some years worse than others, but very predictable. And look what happened during the pandemic when a lot of people did work from home and everyone was wearing a mask. We had essentially a zero influenza season that year. And it's not that the influenza virus wasn't circulating, it's just that we didn't spread it. So certainly, if we want to stop the common cold, everybody works from home, the impact on that on our social lives and our depression would probably be a little bit heavier than the impact of influenza.
Now, Doc is fascinated by the nose, Jane. He loves the nose.
I love the nose, too. And I love the nose because it comes in all different shapes and sizes. But the doctor says it's amazing besides the shape and size. It does a lot of things.
It does. We kind of take it for granted, right? Maybe a sense of smell, we appreciate that, but we really don't understand what the nose does. And it's kind of like, all right, this is going to be kind of a funny thing. But it's really not. It's fairly serious. Even just breathing in air at this time of the year where the humidity is as low as it is, that air would be very irritating to our lungs. So when we breathe through our nose, it moisturizes it warms it, so that by the time it does get to our lungs, it's tolerable. But probably more importantly is we have to understand how important our nose is for fighting off infections, and that's probably the biggest thing. We have cells in our nose that when they get exposed to a virus or a bacteria, they turn on the immune system for the entire body. So it's kind of fascinating how important the nose is when we get to our immune system.
So you advocate something that has to be a doctor practical joke, but don't let your nose get cold?
Yeah, if you
put a sock on your nose?
Well, yeah, put a sock on your nose, wear a mask. I mean, if you think about it, we talked about the importance of just wearing masks from a mechanical blockage point of view, but what we don't understand, and a study that just came out recently showed that when we see a decrease in 9-10 degrees, that kills a lot of the cells in our nose that actually help us fight off infections, which often will tell you why sometimes the flu season is worse in the northern part of the country than in the southern part.
Why aren't we selling nose socks then?
Yeah.
Well, Mom was right. Mom was always right. Wear your scarf. Cover your face. Stay warm.
And
right?
scarves can be very stylish, but I think the Steve Cochran nose sock would be something to catch
you're
on.
right. You're right.
Yeah, catch on.
We can knit them up. Dr. Mose, can you please tell everybody when you're blowing your nose, don't blow it so hard that it blows your ears?
Yeah. There are people say, well, why, when I blow my nose so hard, why do I hear it in my ears? And we have something called the eustachian tube, and that's what allows the pressure on the outside of your ear to be the same as the pressure in the inside. So, like when you're landing in an airplane and you kind of blow your nose briefly, that's just opening up that eustachian tube to equalize the pressure both sides. But you really want to be careful about blowing your nose very hard too, because the eustachian tube is also the leading back into our ears and where we get ear infections and we get balance problems. So certainly blowing your nose, the goal is to just clear your nose. Certainly, like you said, you don't want to blow it so hard that you hurt your eardrum.
Well, you're blowing all that gook back into your head or back into your ears.
Potentially, you're going to blow some of it back into your ears, because what you're doing is you're controlling just the distal portion, the furthest portion of your nose, but you have to remember that the pressure is all being generated back behind that.
So it's like nasal backwash?
Yeah, a little bit. Exactly.
Gross. Yikes. Hey, can you really get addicted to a nasal spray still? I thought they fixed that problem.
Oh, no, absolutely. The afro-nasal sprays can certainly be addictive. So certainly if you're going to use the nasal quarts, the ones that are steroids, those are not addictive, and those work appropriately for allergies. But the Afrin ones are certainly ones that you can get addicted to. And when we say addicted, we don't mean like, oh, my gosh, I have to have it. It's just that if you use it for too many days in a row, then you get something called rebound, which causes you to be congested, which then makes you reach for the Afrin again. So really, anybody who's using Afrin for a couple days max.
Wouldn't just a good old saline spray do about the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't work as fast. Afrin works very quickly, where the saline spray will help clear it, but it doesn't shrink down any of the inflammation.
Somebody said I use a neti pot when I have a cold. That comes from a listener named Bob Neti Pot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently they own the company. All right, so if we want to increase our cognition.
You love this story.
As you get older, you want to increase your cognition. Take up golf.
So this is interesting. This study came out, and I just had to talk about it just because it's just kind of funny to me. And just buying golf clubs like you do, Steve, does not make you smarter. You have to actually go out and use them.
Oh, okay.
But this came from a study from the golfing mecca of University of Eastern Finland. And let's just put this in perspective. in Finland, in the country of Finland, there's 125 golf courses. In Chicago metro area alone, there's over 200. There's 15,000 in the United States. But I'll tell you, I'll look for any study that says if I play golf, I'm going to get smarter, and that's exactly what this study showed. So it showed that playing 18 holes improved your cognitive function immediately following playing golf. So, is it
the exercise? Is it the math?
Well, you have to walk. You can't take the cart.
Correct.
Oh, writing it down.
Yeah. It's two things. It's one, people don't think about golf as a thoughtful game, but it actually is. You're actually thinking and using motor skills and balance and all. And what they did is they said, hey, we're going to test. In the test, he actually sat down and took a test that measured attention, processing speed, demanding skills. So this was not a hokey kind of thing, but it was very interesting. And like I said, anytime I can find a study that says playing golf's going to make me smarter,
You're all over it, and so am I. And I like to test my cognition after a round by seeing how my cursing is. How's my cursing game? Did I nail it? Was my self-loathing today strong? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's end with a medical marvel. Jimmy Carter's 99 years old, and he's expected to attend the service for his late wife, Rosalind, today in Atlanta.
Yep. God bless him. And people say, gosh, didn't he go into hospice? And
over a year ago.
Yeah. I think it's right at about a year he went into hospice. And that's another thing we should probably talk about. I know we have talked about it in the past, but what actually is hospice? It's like, wait, how can he be in hospice this long? But, God bless him. And, he and Rosalind obviously made an impact in a lot of different areas. And it'll be fascinating to see him there.
God bless him is right. Yep. And thank you, Doc. We appreciate it as always. More next week.
You got it. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Dr. Kevin Mose.